We have to talk about CeeDee Lamb, guys, in the Cowboys offense. Because your guy Yates.
Is still your guy?
In the box score, 7 catches for 110 yards looks lovely, but it feels like it should have been so much more.
My friend Ian Harditz at Fantasy Life tweeted out, CeeDee Lamb just had the worst 7 for 110 game in NFL history, which is true. Yeah. Which is true.
I mean, they win the game if a couple more catches on those
One
drops.
of them. The long
one was the ultimate difference maker, but man, to have 3 drops in that short.
The last one, I'm not going to penalize it.
The one that he had, that he dove out. Again, an elite wide receiver makes that catch, but that was a tough one for sure.
The one before he should have caught.
The one before on this. That was bad. And there was another one. Like, wasn't it the one that was up top that like just hit him in the hands that went through that would have, because the Cowboys had stopped, they'd fumbled the ball, Eagles get the ball back, they come back from the weather delay, they stop the Eagles.
Yes.
So Eagles in theory have momentum, although the weather delay sort of killed it, but they get a stop, they get a 3 and out, and now can the Cowboys go down and score? And CeeDee Lamb would have, that one would have kept that drive alive, and maybe they kick a field goal or whatever, right? They just drive killers 100%. And just listen, I love my guy Yates, but those are catches you have to make if you're an elite wide receiver, which is what he is paid to be. To his credit, though, he would agree with me. He took full responsibility in the post-game comments and just said, I have to make those plays, and just whatever, just a bummer. But for us in the world of fantasy football, he put up numbers. Okay. 7 for 110, you'll take that every day.
Here's my take. Everyone should try trade for CeeDee Lamb this morning, because last night, forgetting the drops, he looked amazing. He absolutely destroyed Adoree Jackson. He looked as explosive as he's ever been, and we're going to get to his quarterback. His quarterback looked phenomenal. George Pickens is like the ideal foil for CeeDee Lamb, because George Pickens is very good. George Pickens takes attention. He's someone that you have to respect. He creates space for CeeDee, and also George Pickens is ideal because he's a very good wide receiver. He plays the X role, and so CeeDee can go into the slot more, and also George Pickens is not going to get like 11 targets per game. It's just not going to happen.
He's never been that guy.
It's the perfect guy to put next to CeeDee. I think there is a very good chance on what I saw last night with how good Dak looked, how good the offensive line looked, how bad the defense is probably going to be. I think that there is a very good chance, I honestly might even make him the favorite, that CeeDee Lamb finishes as the number 1 receiver in fantasy, because he just went 7 for 110 against one of the best defenses in football, even without Jalen Carter, and he left like 90 yards on the table.
Right, should have 10 for 170.
Yes, exactly.
An absolute monster game. So I think I come out of last night thinking like CeeDee is just going to go scorched earth on the league.
Yeah, no, I agree with all those takes, and I do, me, I haven't always been the biggest Dak Prescott fan, but I agree with you. He looked phenomenal last night. They should have won that game. They had that game
clean, ripped. He's just looking in a good spot.
Finally moving well, and just the accuracy was on point.
Talking to some of the guys on Football Night, they all noticed, that they think he lost about 15 pounds just to the eye test. That
he looked different.
Looked a little, shredded.
Like a young Matthew Berry.
Like a young Matthew Berry out there. Certainly, we have the same hair. But Dak looked great and deserved a better fate than he got. Unfortunately, the drops just absolutely killed him. But 11 different attempts of 15 or more yards. They were throwing it down not only throwing it a lot, but throwing it down the field. And so, it doesn't show up in the box score because they had the 2 rushing touchdowns with Javonte and everything like that. So he finishes with under 8 fantasy points. To me, the better trade is to trade for Dak Prescott.
Because you probably can.
Because who's giving up CeeDee Lamb? I get the drops were bad, but he's still 7 for 110. And anyone that has him used a top 5 or 6 pick on him most likely.
You got to ride it out.
So I think you would have to pay a lot to get CeeDee Lamb. Not saying it's not worth it, but I do think Dak Prescott is gettable, and I do think Dak Prescott's going to finish the year as a top 10, top 8 fantasy quarterback. It was just a bad game in terms of, they're not going to play the Eagles every week.
Yeah, I think with Dak, Dak wasn't good last year, and that was a big reason why his ADP was suppressed this year, not just coming off the injury, but before he got hurt, he didn't play well. And there were 2 ways to look at that. One, it's all right, he's kind of getting older, he's on the other side of 30, he's had a lot of injuries, maybe he's just entering the other phase of his career. The other way to look at it was, CeeDee had the contract thing last year, coming into the season, disrupted preseason, wasn't really himself the first couple games. There was no real great receiving option alongside CeeDee. Offensive line was in flux with 2 new rookies starting there. And also the McCarthy offense just went stale. Not a lot of motion, not a lot of play action. It felt like Dak just wasn't getting helped in the offense.
Sure.
Now, looks like he might actually be getting helped outside of the drops that cost him the game. So I think that Dak, very within the range of outcomes, that he's like a top 8 fantasy quarterback, and he's just the guy that he was in 2023 when he finished second in MVP.
Yeah, I think he'll certainly earn more defensive attention, and I think things will open up for George Pickens. If there's a positive here, I get it, 3 for 30 on only 4 targets, but played 91% of the offensive snaps. He averaged 13 yards per air target. So, I mean, they were taking deep shots to him. Those will start hitting. They'll take more, and those will start hitting, especially as CeeDee Lamb just continues to get so much volume here. The last thing I'll say, Connor, is sort of interesting. Jake Ferguson, 5 for 23, 18% target share. An 18% target share for a tight end is borderline tight end 1 material.
And could add a touchdown.
12, yeah, exactly.
Right. So the pass that you expect him to catch more often than not. So Jake Ferguson, Dak loves him. I mean, we've seen it over and over again. And goes back to your point, Jay. Pickens didn't come into this offense and kind of push aside the roles that already exist. He's filling one that they didn't know how to fill, right? Trading for Jonathan Mingo. And in all seriousness, now you just put Pickens in the X, CD in the slot, and Ferguson as a legitimate top 3 pass catcher in the offense. I mean, they're not going to be throwing to Javonte that much. Jaden Blue's not ready. There's something there. There's definitely something there.
George Pickens is Klay Thompson. He's running around setting screens, creating space for everyone else, and he's not going to hold the ball a ton.
Drew the DPI, which is a big call.
I know. I'm a big believer that in fantasy football, I wish we could figure out a way to do this. Like, you should get like half the points.
I agree.
Yeah.
Like, if you draw a DPI, like whatever, George Pickens got whatever it was, 50 yards, 45 yards on that DPI.
A hand inside his jersey.
Right, correct. And he almost caught it with the one hand. Like,
really close.
He very close. So, like, that's 45 yards. Like, in theory, that should be, if he catches the ball, it's 5.5 fantasy points. Like he should get 2.5
right.
for that.
You got a point for a DPI.
It's harder to do it. Also, we forget about it. Like, CeeDee got mugged in the end zone by Adoree Jackson, and like that could have been a touchdown as well.
Adoree Jackson.
But
Eagles did not look great overall, by the way.
No,
like,
they're lucky to get
wide open.
They're lucky to get out of there with a win. Like, Adoree Jackson's going to be a problem. For the Eagles. Not for that's what I'm saying. Like
supporter Trey, his $10 super thanks. Would it be possible and or worth it to trade for Hassan Reddick or Devin White? Maybe a Chubb or Phillips out of Miami. Big fan of the show. Thank you, Rich. Good question. I like this one a lot. So in order, not in order, but in of all the players here, Devin White first, though, I think he's bad. Devin White is just Kenneth Murray, where great athlete, doesn't really know where the ball's going consistently, has been a bit of a drama queen before, kind of bouncing around teams right now. I don't think Devin White's an upgrade, so I'm going to pass on White. Hassan Reddick does intrigue me. I am curious how things will end up going in Tampa Bay. Tampa's probably going to be a contender, so unless you want to just wildly overpay for Hassan, I don't think that makes a lot of sense. The Miami guys are very intriguing as possible names because Miami has some edge depth. Jalen Phillips, they spent a first-round pick on Chop Robinson. They have Bradley Chubb. They traded for Matthew Judon. The contracts are a bit interesting. Jalen Phillips is owed, I think it's like $13 million in his 5th-year option. You have the money if you want to, but at that point for like a year, you're kind of like in danger of just spending your Micah savings on Phillips and Clark, which maybe that's worth it for you. But that gets a little expensive. Bradley Chubb did just get a renegotiated contract. I'm looking at this right now live with the Dolphins. They save a little bit of money by trading him, but I don't think they would have done that if they had just wanted to trade him. So you could try one of those guys, but I think the Dolphins are a good fit because they might be bad this year. And if they are bad, that's the type of team you should be calling about because you might be able to get a player on a deal in a sale. So predictions between now and the NFL trade deadline. Will the Cowboys end up making a trade? Y for yes, N for no. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Will the Cowboys end up making a trade? Could Dallas aim for a trade for a better running back like Taylor if the Colts stink? I think if the Colts stink is a very valid question. The Colts are in a weird spot where there is new regime now. The front office is probably going to have to coach and fight for their job. The coach is going to have to do it as well. If they don't win games and they trade away their best player, or at least one of their best players, that kind of becomes like you're signing your own pink slip. Teams don't do that. You can call. Taylor's not that cheap. He hasn't. He's gotten paid, but the next team, in this case the Cowboys, would owe him a pretty good amount. So I wouldn't presume that he would be expensive or worthwhile for a big pick, and you might think of a big pick. So you can call. I don't know how available he's going to be, but he'd definitely help your offense out in a pretty big way. All right, name a player who you want the Cowboys to add. Could be via trade, could be via free agency. Let me know in the comments of today's show. For yes, N for no. From Manny, a $5 super chat. Thank you, Manny. Can we go out and trade for a stud linebacker? Defensive line did excellent in the second half. Makes me feel better than having Parsons. They got some pressures in the second half, which is a big deal, and hopefully that continues against the not best offensive line in football, even though Dickerson did get banged up in that game. You can try to find a linebacker. You start throwing around a first-round pick, teams are going to be a lot more involved. I don't know if that's a good idea for the Cowboys, and then you don't have a third, so it gets a little bit complicated to find a way to make that work. You, in theory, might get a stud one back into Marvin Overshown, but I do think maybe give Leofau some more playing time. Maybe it just hurts, and that was the issue, but the linebackers I didn't think played well enough. I agree. $10 super chat, Chase Garvin. Let me get you into a raffle here, Chase. Boom, got you entered. Chase says, I think this defense needs to be a zone blitzing team. Linebackers were a clear reliability on defense. Sanborn's not enough for man. Murray's in discipline enough with his eyes. So I will say, the Cowboys straight up didn't run man. They didn't have a single man coverage rep in the entire, per NFL's Next Gen Stats, in the entire game against Philadelphia. It was all zone. But those hook zones, you still have to have good eye discipline. You have to keep your eyes peeled and set up properly. I think zone blitzes are a good idea. It's not Matt Eberflus's style. He does a lot of cover 2, a lot of cover 4, a lot of zone stuff, some man. I think he'll probably do more man against lesser competition potentially. But the zone stuff is fine, but you can't drop back too far. Full times per day, and at least one every single day right here on the Cowboys Report. TG Collects, final question. Any free agent edges or linebackers that interest you? I mean, if you felt like you needed to go get an edge, you could find somebody. Like, you could go, obviously, Darius Smith off the market as of the middle of our live show today, Friday. You could go out and pursue a Jadeveon Clowney. Like, he's available. Maybe he helps you out a little bit. I kind of wonder if you're okay enough at edge. The linebacker groups are, you just want to bring back Eric Kendricks? I would be surprised if the Cowboys did that. The other guys are like, does Anthony Walker interest you? You know, Kaiser White got picked up already. Like, it's not a very good group. Devondre Campbell might as well be done in the NFL with what happened. So I think if you're, I'm sure the Cowboys will give us the Overshown's going to return. I might just play Leofau more.